Hi everybody, welcome to the Sportsocology Show. It's Saturday, March 29th, 2014. I'm your host, Bill Knutson. I hope you're having a great weekend so far, and hopefully you're getting some spring weather, especially all the places that have been brutalized with snow and ice and everything. It's a beautiful day here in Atlanta, Georgia, about 65 degrees and sunny, and we're going to be close to 80 by Monday and Tuesday, I believe. So hopefully everything's warming up and you're having a great weekend. Anyway, I want to throw a quick shout out to my nephew Tyler. It's his birthday today. He's over in Red Bay, Alabama. Happy birthday, Tyler. He's 19 years old today. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you soon. And I love you, man. Happy birthday, Tyler. Anyway, I'm moving on to business, the business at hand. The first thing I want to talk about is some of these big contracts that have been being signed recently. Miguel Cabrera, 10 years, $292 million with the Detroit Tigers. Nobody can argue he's the best hitter in baseball. There's no question about it. But he's about to turn 31. So, if you do the math, 31 years old, 10-year contract, he'll be 41 when that contract runs out. And the last couple of years, he's actually broken down at the end of the year with some injuries. I realize he's won the last 2 AL MVPs. I'm not saying he's no good anymore. But do we really think after the first 5 years maybe of the 10-year contract, he's going to be anywhere near what he is now? The answer is no. He's already showing signs of breaking down. There's no way that he can keep up this pace, for another 10 years. So I say the Tigers will love this deal the first 4 or 5 years, but then, years 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they're going to start to say it's going to feel like an albatross around their neck because he's not going to be nearly as productive as he has been, the last 5 years. But, it seems like people want to keep these guys, and I understand that. Of course, I would like to keep Cabrera too. And you want to reward him for the great work that he's done for you. I understand that. So you want to give him the security and the pay raise and all of that, but you also have to pay for future production, what you think he will produce for you in the future. And like I said, after the first 5 years of this deal, he is not going to be nearly productive the second 5 years of the deal, ages 37 through 41, as he is 31 to 36. So I would have offered him a 5 to 6 year deal, and he's making over $29 million a year. That's not the issue for me. I mean, you want to pay the man $29 million a year, that's fine, but make it a 5 or 6 year deal and see how things are when he's 36 or 37, rather than paying him $29 million a year plus until he's 41. And if he has a problem with that, then I would trade him. And with his kind of talent right now, you can get a lot of good prospects and major league talent for a guy as good as Cabrera. But that's what I would do. I would never give a 10-year contract to anybody that has even hit 30, let alone 31, 32, whatever. So that's my opinion on that. It's like all you have to do is look out to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. The 10-year, $240 million deal they gave to Albert Pujols a couple of years ago. They still have to pay him 8 more years on that deal until he's 42 years old. He's 34 now. The last 2 years with the Angels, his numbers have gone down quite a bit from his great days with the Cardinals. And they still have 8 years and, $190 million they still have to pay him. And he's already starting to break down a little bit, already starting to decline a bit, and there's still 8 years left. So they would love to get out from under this contract. I didn't even like the deal they gave Josh Hamilton 2 years ago. And that was a 5-year deal for $125 million. Because he's already starting to break down. His numbers aren't anywhere near what they were with the Texas Rangers, and his last year with the Rangers, I didn't even think he was that great. So, as big a fan of Albert Pujols as I was, when they announced that deal, I said the Angels are crazy, for the same reason as the Tigers are nuts. The first 5 years, and it's not even that with Pujols, the first 2 years weren't even that great. He didn't even come close to what he did with St. Louis the first 2 years, let alone the first 5. You know, you thought maybe you'd get 5 really good years out of him. You didn't even get that from Pujols. I think you will from Cabrera. But from Pujols, no. And they still have to pay him for 8 more years. So I think that contract is really, really stupid. What about, you know, other long contracts? Alex Rodriguez got not one but 2 10-year contracts. He got one from the Rangers for $252 million. And after 3 years, they got rid of him because he wasn't worth it. And he even won a couple of MVPs with the Rangers, or at least one, maybe 2. But, you know, they were in last place. So they're like, we're paying this guy all this money, and we finished last without him, and we finished last with him. Yeah, he put up the numbers, but he didn't improve our team at all. So they could use that money that they were paying him to go out and do what they eventually did do. They got pitching, they got other players at other positions, and now the Rangers, for the last few years, have been contenders. They've been to the World Series a couple of times as well. So it's much better to use that kind of money, spread it out, and get more good players and be solid at more positions than give it all to one player. You know, what about the Yankees now? They're in the, 6 years into a 10-year deal for $275 million with A-Rod. You don't think they'd love to get out from under that, even without all of his lying and his steroid use and all of the other antics on and off the field? I mean, he's just a joke and a black eye for baseball, and I hope he never plays again. But anyway, I mean, you don't think the Yankees are regretting that? Or even like Mark Teixeira, they signed him 4 years ago, $180 million for 8 years. Has he produced anywhere near that kind of money? He was hurt all of last year. You know, they still have to pay him 4 or 5 more years on that. We'll see. But, excuse me, again, he's in his early 30s and still has 4 or 5 more years. We'll see. But at least his contracts are not going till he's 41 and 42. His contract will be over when he's like 36 or something. But the contract I do like that the Angels did was for Mike Trout yesterday. $144.5 million for 6 years. He's 22 years old and the best player in baseball. So, and he could have easily gotten a 10-year contract, and they even said so. He would have easily gotten a 10-year deal from the Angels. And at 22, a guy this great on and off the field, I would have locked him up for 10 years at 22, not at 32. Not even at 28 would I have given him a 10-year contract. But he decided he would take a 6-year contract. So that would mean he'd be playing for the Angels for 8 years. And he would see how the organization was going. And at the end of that contract, he's just getting into the prime of his greatness. He's not even nearly as great as he can be, barring injury, which of course, can happen to anybody. But he'll give the Angels 8 years. The 2 he's already been there and 6 coming in the contract. And he could leave if he wants to. He's a New Jersey boy, so he might want to come back east and play for the Yankees or the Phillies, and I wish the Mets, but nobody seems to want to come play for the Mets because they're kind of a mess and they're not showing any signs of heading in the right direction. So, but I think that deal is really good, to lock him up. He's the face of baseball right now that Derek Jeter is about to retire, and he's a class guy and a great player. So I have no problem with that contract at all. I think the only 10-year contract that I've ever been happy with, that I thought the man was worthy of it and earned every penny, if not more, was Derek Jeter. He signed a 10-year, $189 million contract, that finished maybe 3-4 years ago. I don't remember exactly when. But did he not deliver a lot of championships? He did. Was he not the captain and key piece to those Yankee championships? He was, along with other guys, Mariano Rivera and Posada and those guys. But Jeter was the man. He's always been the man ever since he was, drafted by the Yankees and came to the Yankees. He's been class personified on and off the field, and certainly nobody can argue with his social life. He probably has the best social life of anybody that's ever lived. But anyway, his contract, he was well worth that 10 years, $189 million with everything that he delivered. But in general, stay away from the 10-year contracts for anybody in their late 20s or older. You're going to regret it the last 5 years at least, because there's no way they could live up to that for that many years. So try and stay away from those. But anyway, I'm going to move on to the NBA. Has anybody noticed the San Antonio Spurs have won 16 games in a row? Now, I'm a big sports fan. I pay attention to these things. My wife says I'm the smartest guy in the world with the useless information, and I guess she thinks all the sports statistics and all that kind of stuff that are up in my head, I've always had that talent for whatever reason. She calls those useless stats, but I knew they've won 16 games in a row. But outside of San Antonio and the diehard NBA guys that, probably talk sports for a living or write for a newspaper or something, probably most people aren't even aware of it because it's kind of the way they are as a team. They're not exciting. They're not on the highlight reels on ESPN every night. They just are professional, and all they do is win. They just go about their business quietly and professionally, playing the game the way it's supposed to be played, playing defense, passing the ball to the open man, looking for the next pass rather than the next point. There is a big difference. Those kind of teams win. Teams. It's a team game. Unless you're skilled like Michael Jordan, but even Michael Jordan, last I checked, Scottie Pippen's a Hall of Famer. Again, Dennis Rodman, a Hall of Famer. He had great players around him. Now granted, Jordan made them as great as they could possibly be. He made everybody as great as they could possibly be. But even Jordan had help. He didn't do it alone. And the Spurs, they just have really good players all around that the name on the front of their jersey is the one that counts, not the name on the back of the jersey. Teams like that win. That's why they've won 4 championships in the last 15 years, and they should have beaten the Heat last year. And that one's going to sting forever. They're never going to get over that one. But I thought when that series ended last year, I said 2 things. The Heat will not three-peat because I thought the Pacers, at least the Pacers, would be coming this year to dethrone them. And I also said that I thought the Spurs run was over. Not that they would, turn into bums and not make playoffs. That's not what I meant. But in terms of challenging for championships, I thought the Spurs, as they are now, would be finished, at least for a while. They would have to rebuild, and do what they do and try and get back to where they were. But obviously they proved me wrong. They're ready for a run at the title. Like I said, they've won 16 games in a row. They have the best record in the NBA. These guys are doing what they've done for, it seems like, 1,000 years, and they're saying, hey, we're still here. Take notice because we're coming. Now, I'm not saying the Spurs are going to win the title. All I said was I didn't think the Heat would three-peat. The Pacers are out there, and I think the Pacers are ready to dethrone the Heat. I'm not saying the Heat can't win 3 years in a row, but I'm saying that they won't. The Pacers are out there. They are tough. They are young. They're big. Just the kind of things that can get them by the Heat, and they almost got by the Heat last year. Over in the West, Oklahoma City, Durant is playing out of his mind on offense. I don't care what anybody says. He's not as good as LeBron because he doesn't have that all-around game. He is a lethal offensive player. He is not the defensive player that LeBron is. He is not the assist man that LeBron is. He is not the rebounder that LeBron is. But I will give him credit. He is getting better at those things. But he is a lethal offensive force. And him with Russell Westbrook, if they both stay healthy, of course the Thunder are going to be heard from in the West. As for the Rockets, I love James Harden. As I've said before, I am not a fan of Dwight Howard at all. I think he is a prima donna. I think he's lazy. And I would never want him for my hometown New York Knicks. But the kid is talented. The guy's talented. There's no doubt about it. I just don't like him. I don't respect guys that, act the way he does and don't try hard and, lie about things. I just don't like guys about that. But the guy's talented. And he's playing well this year. And the Rockets are playing well this year. But I don't see the Rockets challenging for a title. I don't think they'll get past the Thunder. I don't think they could beat the Thunder in a 7-game series. But, they're out there. And, they're talented. But I'll say again, I don't think the Heat will three-peat. But we'll see. Speaking of, like I was a minute ago, Kevin Durant, do we know he's scored at least 25 points in 37 straight games? That is an unbelievable stat, showing that I said he is a lethal offensive player, the best offensive player in the NBA, in the world. But he's not the best player in the world. By the way, the record is Michael Jordan's. He scored 25 points at least in 40 straight games. So Durant may beat him. He's 3 more games with 25 points to tie. 4 more, he'll pass the great MJ with 41 games in a row of at least 25 points. So that's great. Durant just keep improving the other aspects of the game. Obviously, you don't need to improve much on your offense, that's for sure. But the other ones, if you want to be legitimately the best player in the world, you have to work on those. Now on to the final segment, March Madness. That's going on. Games will be coming on a little bit later. My Final Four, if you remember, took a little hit because the last few years there have been small teams that are making it to the Final Four. George Mason. Last year it was Florida Gulf Coast that made this miraculous run. A few years back, Butler made it to the national championship game 2 years in a row. So I said, all right, I've got to pick somebody like that. I picked the Creighton Blue Jays to win the West and get to the Final Four. Wow, did they let me down. They lost in the second game. I had them not losing until the national championship game, Game 6. So that hurt me a bit. So go on back to Nebraska, Creighton. I'm done with you. But, I tried kind of a crazy pick. I even said it on the air, kind of a crazy pick. And obviously it was because they didn't just lose the second game. They got blasted by 30 points. So, but my other Final Four is there. I have Michigan coming out of the Midwest. And they've got a really tough game with Kentucky tomorrow. So we'll see. I have Michigan State coming out of the East. They've got a tough game at Madison Square Garden, which is like a second home for UConn. Michigan State's playing UConn for the right to go to the Final Four, but I have Michigan State winning that game and moving on to the Final Four. And I have Florida winning the South. Not really going out on a limb there. They're a number 1 seed and the number 1 team in the country. So I've got 3 of my Final Four still alive. But going with today's games, the first game, Florida and Dayton, I think Florida will take care of Dayton comfortably. And when I say comfortably, double digits. So that's at least 10 points. Florida will beat Dayton by. And I've watched Dayton play. I didn't see them too much during the season. They're not on national TV that much. But I watched them play during the tournament. I was impressed. They have a good team. They've had a nice run. They've beaten some good teams to get where they are. But I think they're going to run into a brick wall in Florida today. Florida is too seasoned, too big, too tough, too skilled. I say Florida beats Dayton by at least 10 points. And the other game later on tonight, Arizona and Wisconsin, the top 2 seeds in the West. I didn't have either one of them playing in this game. Thanks, Creighton. I didn't have either one of them making it this far. I take it back. I had Arizona making it this far. I had Arizona playing Creighton excuse me, in this game. I had Arizona playing Creighton, but obviously, like I said, Creighton was gone a long time ago. So it's Arizona and Wisconsin today, and I had Creighton beating Arizona. So I'm just going to stick with that. Instead of Creighton, I'm going to take Wisconsin to beat Arizona. Not that that's a big upset, a 2 seed beating a 1, but I had Arizona losing in this game today, just to Creighton instead of Wisconsin. So I'm going to take Wisconsin, taking Creighton's place, Wisconsin to beat Arizona and go to the Final Four to take Creighton's place in the Final Four. I have Wisconsin beating Arizona to go to the Final Four, and my other 3 teams, Michigan, Michigan State, and Florida, in the Final Four are still alive, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so that's all I have for today. I hope you all enjoy the college basketball that's going to be starting shortly. Hope you all have a great rest of the weekend. Get out and enjoy, hopefully, the beautiful weather wherever it is that you live. Please follow me on Twitter and Facebook, and it shows you right there how to do that. Please go to YouTube, look up the Sportsocology Show, put in the word Sportsocology, hit subscribe. It'll let you know anytime I do a show. Right now I'm doing shows usually on Saturdays, and they usually come on YouTube sometime Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. But there might be other times I just feel like doing a midweek show or something like that. You never know what I'm going to do. You know how it is. Life happens. Things change. I don't have a set schedule. Hopefully one day I can do this for a living where I will have a set schedule. That's a dream of mine, even though I'm starting in my 40s. I'm 47 now. But it would still be a dream if I could do that for the next 15 or 20 years or whatever. But for now, I just do the show whenever I can. All right, so please follow me, in any of those ways, any and all of those ways. And I hope you have a great weekend. And I'll look forward to doing a show for you probably next weekend. Until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the college basketball. And I'll see you next time, America, wherever you are.